Pete Carroll's time as Raiders head coach lasted just one season in Las Vegas after the team fired the 74-year-old Monday. Silver and Black went 3-14 this past year, but there is hope in the form of the #1 overall pick in this year's draft. And the expectation is they'll go quarterback. Owner Mark Davis, though, still owing money to former coaches like Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce, and now Pete Carroll. Don't forget also former offensive coordinator Chip Kelly this past midseason still owed some money. You see all the coaches there. Raiders are one of 6 franchises with a head coaching vacancy right now in 2026. Always a treat to have Amy Trask join us here on HQ Spotlight, and you're the perfect person to talk about this franchise, Amy. But when I ask you, and when I tell fans, Raiders are searching for their 4th head coach in 5 years, what stands out to you about that?
Well, most people look at the number of coaches. I think about the number of dollars associated with paying coaches who are no longer working. That's where my business brain goes. But yes, they have got to resolve the coaching situation. And there are some exciting opportunities in that respect. The one name that intrigues me the most is John Harbaugh. And boy, would it be fun to have 2 Harbaughs in the AFC West. But Tommy, irrespective of the coach they hire, they have got to address internal issues, create a collaborative environment where no one is operating behind the scenes. And no, I'm not simply referencing Tom Brady. The team owner did say, Mark Davis did say that Tom will have a more prominent role, but there's also Jim Gray that needs to be addressed. And they just got to create a collaborative environment where everybody is, to use the phrase, rowing or pulling their oars in the same direction.
You brought up John Harbaugh, who at the time was the 2nd longest tenured head coach in the NFL, only behind Mike Tomlin. What stands out to you about him being a top coaching candidate?
Well, first of all, I think the world of Steve Bisciotti, and I'm sure he gave this great thought. I hope that he asked himself and answered the question I always pose in these instances. If you're going to get rid of John Harbaugh, and do what? Do you have a better answer? Because John Harbaugh, when you look at the number of times he has led that team to the playoffs and had winning seasons, he's going to be tough to replace, but he is now available to other teams. And as I said, it would be a lot of fun to have 2 Harbaughs in the AFC West.
So let's get to Tom Brady before we get to what the Raiders might do with the #1 overall pick, only because, Amy, you brought up the situation internally with the organization. When people still think about Tom Brady's role with the franchise, what do you tell people? What do you advise people?
Well, you know, there are many people who think I have ill will towards Tom because of the Tuck rule game. And to be very clear, I do not have any ill will whatsoever against Tom. Tom did in that moment exactly what every fan of every team would want his or her quarterback to do, which is proceed as he did, as if he didn't fumble. And we won't go into that whole conversation right now. So look, no ill will against Tom, but it's not just Tom there. The gentleman who orchestrated Tom's purchase of an interest in the Raiders, Jim Gray, is still very involved behind the scenes. And the reason I bring that up is to create an environment in which everyone is working together. They're communicating, they're cooperating, they're coordinating, they're collaborating. Those are the words that I believe are most important in a business. They've got to address that internally so that whoever the head coach is, he can succeed.
Take us behind the scenes of what the Raiders are going to do. They hold the top overall pick. They got the draft coming up. And again, we've already highlighted, obviously, there's some needs that this franchise has to have both on the field and within that building. Amy, what do we think about the top overall pick for Vegas?
Well, I think it should be evaluated in a number of ways. If the Raiders believe that #1 pick can be used on a player, whether Mendoza or otherwise, to address the need at quarterback, or in another area, because there are a lot of needs, well, then go ahead and use that pick if you feel absolutely firm that that pick is going to be well used. But the other thing I think they should explore is trading the pick, testing the waters, sticking the toe in the water, whatever you want to say about the waters. Can you parlay that pick into multiple picks? Because there are a lot of needs on the team, and not just at the quarterback position. So do you need a quarterback? You do. Do you want to use that pick on a quarterback? Maybe you do, but I'd certainly explore trading it and trying to get as many picks as possible as an alternative. And then maybe you use it, maybe you trade it.
So if you find sort of that great deal to build draft capital, is that something that is entertained through outside sources? Do you go out and say, perhaps we're shopping around the first pick, Amy? Like, where does the most leverage come from in a situation what the Raiders are in right now?
People do a little dance, and everybody who does it, and look, I was on the inside for the years. I saw us doing the dance. I saw other people doing the dance. Every team thinks they're so clever. They're not really going to know that I'm looking to trade. Everybody knows what everybody is doing. If you want to trade the pick, you can try to be as circumspect as you wish. People know what you're doing. So there's a lot of, what I would say, Emmy award-winning acting going on. If you want to trade the pick, be honest. Find out, is there a market for that pick? Because look, the draft is not a science. There's no Rosetta Stone for the draft. There's no Enigma code for the draft. We see draft picks fail all the time. And by the way, there are a lot of men in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that went undrafted. So if you can amass a lot of picks and try a whole lot more draft picks, maybe you address quarterback in free agency, maybe you make a trade. Those are all options that should be on the table.
We know Raider fans of the Silver and Black Raider Nation, they are some of the best in the country despite some of these lean times. What should Mark Davis and that front office do to give a message of some hope here for the fans moving forward?
Well, fans of every team should be appreciated and should be cherished. But you are right, Tommy. There is and will always and forever be a special part of my heart for Raider fans. I will love them forever, and they should be appreciated and they should be cherished. And there are so many ways to do this. Give the fans opportunities when they come to a game that those not coming to a game might not have. Because yes, fans that watch on television are important. But if you are spending your time, expending your effort and your energy and spending your money to go to a game, you know what? Invite your fans after the game to mix and mingle with your players. Do a lottery drawing and have some on the field pregame every week. Do another lottery drawing and have certain fans get free food every week. Look, I'm not going to take your time right now because I could go on and give you a list of 100 things the organization can do to take care of its fans, and they should do them.
And I hope that they're listening to you, Amy, because you are the best. The Princess of Darkness joining us here on HQ Spotlight to talk about the state of the franchise, which is the Las Vegas Raiders. And here's a look at their opponents for 2026. You see the home and away splits. Of course, that division is tough, and who would have thought the Chiefs would be in a down year at the end of 2025 in that season?